you know, to all you men out there, we all have a journey, we all have a story. So, Steve, we're going to start with your story tonight, obviously. Hopefully you come onto the picture when you start talking, so give it a shot and see what happens.
Hello, everybody, I'm here.
That's good. Now I've got you. See, now I can see you. So now I can have a bit of eye contact with you for the change. Steve and I have had a few conversations over the phone over the last couple of days. Steve, just today you dropped one on me and you said you've been to the doctors. This is not what we're talking about, but how's the day gone for you?
Pretty ordinary. I still suffer from a great deal of anxieties that, you know, last week or so, I've just been getting weak and trembly and, you know, just me bursting into tears. So I think things are getting a bit much for me. So I'm having this week off work to start with, and we'll see how we go from there.
Thanks, Steve. Look, now we're going to head back a bit in your story, and we're going to go back. You made mention about the age of 10, 11 was where you started to recall and remember things.
Yeah, I have almost no recollection of my childhood before 10 or 11. A lot of people say that's pretty sad, but there wasn't much worth remembering anyway. I was horribly bullied, extremely isolated, and that wasn't just the kids at school. My older brother was 1.5 years bigger, older, stronger than me, and he was just horrible kid. One example, can't remember what age, somewhere between 6 and 12. He had a bunch of lollies. He probably stole them, I imagine. And I said, "Can I have one?" So he said, close your eyes and open your mouth." So he spat in my mouth. That's the kind of kid he was. But I was an extremely odd child. Even in recent years, my mum has told me, we knew you were very odd, but we didn't know what or why or what to do about it. Of course, things like, wasn't until between 35 and 40, I got a number of diagnoses, including 2 different types of dyslexia, ADHD inattentive type, high functioning autism, and schizophrenia. So yeah, I was a very odd child. I didn't fit in anywhere. Kids were horribly cruel. So just...
And that really had a bigger impact on your life, didn't it, mate? For a lot of years later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we need to move on, as I said, otherwise we'll get stuck in the mud here and won't get out of it. But what we need to do is there was a time there when something happened to your dad.
Yeah.
And it was pretty major in your life. Just tell us a little bit about what happened there and how old you were and how you worked through that.
It came to pass that my dad was in a horrific car crash. He went end over end once and 3.5 times over sideways, that he walked away from. Flagged down a passing car, he walked away from it. Wasn't until 4 weeks later he fell asleep on the couch one Friday night. When he woke up, lifted his head and started an intense pain in the base of his skull. You know, up in my bedroom, my door closed, I could hear him stamping his feet on the floor, trying to cope with this pain. Mum came and got me and my older brother. We carried him into the bed, laying him down, thinking that might help. She went mad trying to ring anybody she could find. I don't know what happened to my brother. I didn't see him the rest of the night, but I stayed with Dad as he started saying things like, "I can't feel my toes. I can't feel my feet. I can't feel my ankles." So, and continuing from there, I mean, how wrong is this picture? You know, I was holding my dad's hand, trying to encourage him while he cried on my shoulder. I was 15. Now, at the time, I had allowed hate in my mind. Started with my brother, obviously. He was the star performer. But I hated the kids at school. Anybody was mean to me. And you'll hear parents say to their kids, be careful with that. That's a very strong word, but I'll tell you, it goes a lot further than that. If you allow hate in your mind, and especially if you encourage it like I did, it will grow and grow and grow. It'll be bigger and stronger to extend more and more things, more and more people, and it can even take over your entire personality, as it ended up doing with me. So this was an incredibly confusing time for me.
Now, there was a time where your mum started to ring your neighbours and friends around you, and she virtually lost the plot and gave you the phone, and you had to deal with all that as well.
Yes, well, after we visited our dad in the hospital on the Saturday and told he'll be a quadriplegic for the rest of his life, we got home and she started ringing all the family and friends to say what was going on, and she couldn't get more than 2 or 3 sentences out. So I had to take over and explain all this to, aunties, uncles, sisters and cousins and the whole lot, everybody. So this was an incredibly traumatic moment for me, especially since I wasn't in a particularly stable state of mind already. So my hatred had grown to just about everybody, anybody, even my parents. I couldn't hate my parents. I used to imagine scenarios where they were all killed in a car accident or something like that, and I'd finally be left on my own and I might have a chance of being happy. But yeah, no, it was just a dreadful time.
Steve, I know we didn't talk about this, but did you find yourself being aggressive at other people around you through that time?
No, I've never been an aggressive or violent person. I just lost is probably more a better description.
Yeah. So through all of your teenage years, or to about the middle of your teenage years, now tell the guys, and just take some time with this one. It's about where you come to that place of you decided to be seeing what it'd be like to jump off a cliff.
Yeah, so within a year of that happening to Dad, this hatred had grown to include myself, where I just absolutely did not care what happened. So when I was 16, I decided to jump off a 20-metre cliff at a quarry nearby here. On a dare. Just on a dare. For reasons I weren't able to fathom at the time, which are pretty obvious now, I hardly did myself any injury whatsoever. Bit sore, winded, couldn't breathe for about 30 seconds, and a blood nose. That was it. Settled myself, jumped on my push bike and rode home. But I can tell you, the 5 or so seconds from the top of that cliff to the bottom of the cliff, I absolutely shat myself. Never experienced terror even close to that. And look, I've been a youth worker my whole life, and I've had a knife held to my throat twice, not even close. I had very carefully thought all this through, and all the possible scenarios, bent and broken and even paralyzed. Like, I knew exactly what all the struggles my dad was having, and dead. I just did not care. But through that terror, that forced me to reevaluate. This was the crucial turning moment of my life, where I had to realize there is something I'd never guessed was there deep inside me that did not want me dead at the bottom of a cliff. So therefore, I also had to decide, well, if I've been that wrong about that carefully considered decision, maybe I've been wrong about everything in my entire life. So I decided I turned my life 180 degrees and started exploring or searching for living the caring life. I got involved with the Big Brother, Big Sister program through one of my younger brother's mates from school. Got involved with a group called Fusion Youth Workers, faith ministry youth workers. join their leadership team running youth day trips. So 4 years of searching for this caring life and not really know what I'm looking for and not finding it. After one of these day trips when I was 20, the leader had a little talk at the end, and there was no Christianity in it. It was just a little talk. But I'll tell you this, that was inspired, direct from God. There's no other way to explain what he said matching what I was searching for. He talked about living the caring life. And I think, that's it. That's what I'm looking for. This guy knows what it is. So I went back a couple of days later. I had a chat with him, and he gave me the full gospel, the whole thing, unadulterated. And I'm going, oh crap, it's Christianity. I had been actively and fiercely denying God for many years by this point. The only exposure I'd had to Christianity was very early on. My dad had no church experience. My mum's parents were, you will go to church on Sunday or else. So mum took a quiet attack with us. If we wanted to go, we went. If we didn't, we didn't. So I went to Sunday school at around 6-7 years old for about 1.5 years. I'd lose interest and drift off and don't come. But they'd give you the encouragement prize at the end of the year, so you get all excited, you come back again and drift off again. So I walked away from that, basically saying words to the effect of, don't call me, I'll call you. I went home, laid on my bed. I turned around and pulled off the bookshelf in my bedhead the Good News Bible. It had been sitting there for 13 years. One of the encouragement prizes from when I was a kid, 7 years old. Pristine, barely a fingerprint on it. I opened it at Mark's Gospel because the guy from Fusion said, have a go at reading Mark. So I started reading Mark. I got through, I don't know, about 7 or 8 chapters, closed it, put it down, and thought, if Jesus is who he says he is, you had better be listening to him. So I went back a couple of days later and said, this was no trumpets blaring or feet lifting off the ground kind of conversion. It was a fairly cold intellectual statement. Okay, I'll give this Christianity thing a go. And I have never looked back since. The more I read, the more I studied, the more commentaries I read, my faith has got stronger and stronger and stronger to where I sit today, where I have to say Christianity is an outright proven fact. It is completely undeniable to anybody who will look at all the evidence with an open mind.
Excellent, Steve. Look, what I'd like to ask you about now is we're talking about mechanic in the workshop, just the situations that used to happen in that place. Just tell the guys a bit about your trade and the background that used to happen to you at the workshop.
Well, when I was 20, I was halfway through a mechanic's apprenticeship. So that's when I decided for Christ then. And I got to tell you, a motor mechanics workshop is a tough place to suddenly have rigid, hard moral standards. The apprentices doing their drug deals in the lunchroom, the service manager hiding damage to the cars from the customers, and you've got to decide, well, where do I stand in all of this? But I was very lucky in one sense that I picked up on this very early on, and you can take this gem with you if you want. The thing that you are most passionate about, that you love the most, that you will dedicate yourself to, that is God's gifting for you. That is his calling. And during this time, once I discovered Christianity, I realized that my calling was kids. Even going back as young as 10, 11 years old, mum and dad would have friends over for dinner one night. I'd take the kids, entertain them for the entire evening, and bring them back, happy and replete at the end of the evening when they went to go home. Mum and Dad thought it was brilliant. They had this nice, quiet chat and a glass of wine with their friends. But this is the time after I decided for Christ is when I realised that's where I'm supposed to be. So when I finished my apprenticeship, I went and did my diploma in youth and community work, and I've dedicated my life to kids ever since. That's where I find myself now. I'm an integration aide at a special developmental school, which is with severely disabled kids. And I volunteer as the director of kids camps for primary age kids, called Kids of Gold.
Steve, before we get into all of that, there was something that you told me that kept you alive through all this time, and it was just a simple little reading that you used to do. Can you tell us, remember what that was?
No.
It was to do with the daily bread. Do you remember?
Oh, yes. The guy I spoke to at Fusion, his parents owned a Christian bookshop, so he gave me the little daily bread, just the one or two verses with a short blurb with it, and that's where I started. I started reading that. I'd read the one or two verses and the wisdom expelled there, and that's where I started. And I've researched and studied deeper and deeper every aspect I could possibly find in Christianity, and I cannot fault it anywhere. And that's one of the real beauties of Christianity. It is so simple, as John 3:16 says. Yeah, you believe in him and you will be saved. Even young children, even severely disabled people can understand that. Yeah. And yet the greatest minds on the planet can delve as deep as they like and still gain great gems of wisdom out of the Christianity. It's brilliant.
Now, Steve, out of some of these camps, just share with the blokes some of the stories of seeing the transformation of the young ones that come along and sort of how it comes about.
Yeah, they were started by a Christian guy named Gary Parsons. He's a teacher. When he was at school, he saw so many kids were just isolated on their own, couldn't make friends, couldn't keep friends, bullied, poor self-esteem, lack of confidence. So he said, I'm going to design camps especially for these kids. So they are designed to build confidence and build self-esteem and self-worth. That's why they're called Kids of Gold, like the verse in the Psalms, they're more valuable than gold. Now, some of the things that happen on this camp are just amazing. A couple of years ago, we had a girl come who came in a wheelchair on the Friday night. They're only weekend camps, only 2 days. Excuse me. Not because of any physical ailment, but because the stress and anxiety in their life was so extreme, the strength in the legs had just gone out from underneath her. By the Saturday morning, she was leaving the wheelchair at the side and walking the couple of metres to a dining table. By Saturday lunchtime, she'd left the wheelchair behind altogether. By Saturday evening, she was tear-assing around playing capture the flag. It started out as one camp, and the kids just kept coming back and back and back. So he developed a level 2 and a level 3, and now we're doing a level 4, which is our leadership training program. And we've had 15 or 20 of those kids who started out in level 1, lacking in confidence and self-esteem, have gone all the way through to become group leaders themselves. There's even one girl who came through the camps. She is now my assistant director. They're just incredible, incredibly blessed camps.
Now, Steve, why do you figure that you're able to meet the needs of these young kids so well?
I know it. I've lived it. Yeah, I was terrible at school. There was nothing I was good at. I was bad at sports. I was bad at everything. Everything in school, I had no successes. But I struggled and battled my way through it. I finished my year 12. I finished a youth work diploma. And so I know how to do it. So I get these kids. I can think like they can. And the guys, even the teachers at school who work with special kids, very few of them ever guess that I have autism, because I've adjusted so well.
Yeah,
but they always wonder why I'm so good with the kids there. They can't believe how amazing I am with them.
Yeah, and I think that's a credit to you, mate, because that's letting that love of Jesus just shine through you. Now, listen, what we're heading towards now are there a couple more stories that you want to share with the guy about the different programs of youth that you've been involved in?
If there's a field of children's work that I haven't been involved in, I'd be very surprised. Everything from teaching Sunday school to inside a juvenile detention centre to group homes in the roughest part of Melbourne. Everything. Day trips, youth groups. Yeah, lots, everything. After school care, I was a coordinator of an after school care centre. Day trips. RE when we were still allowed to go into schools and do that. Yeah.
Now, Steve, you're telling me that you've been confronted a few times, just young ones sort of having a bit of a go at you, a bit of a shot. How do you handle that sort of side of things?
As a youth worker, well, you've got to fight them off. I mean, they did it because I'm a big bloke. I'm 6'2" and 125 kilos. They attack. They're going up in 2 or 3 of them at a time. You got to fight them off, and that's about the best you can do. And then I'm not sure what more to say about that. I mean, I've had a knife held in my throat twice.
And they're still game enough to come at you. But look, what I'm going for there is, sometimes we don't always get it rosy and just given to us. And some of these kids, you've got to build that into their lives, an area of trust.
Oh, yeah. Well, you've got to be worthy of their trust to start with. And especially with runaways and kids who have been abused and that kind of thing, trust is very hard to come by. So for starters, you've got to be someone who is worthy of their trust. And when I'm in my training days with my leaders, my group leaders on Kids of Gold camps, I will tell them, you need to be who you want your kids to be, and they will follow you.
And I think that carries through it a lot more than just with our youth.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a brilliant example to anybody you come across.
Yeah. Now, Steve, I asked you about leaving some gold with the guys, and you had some excellent things to say about that area of your life and what you'd like to encourage the men to do. What were some of those things you told me?
Well, I think it was the main point I wanted to say was find that gifting and indulge yourself in it, because that's where God has given his strength. I can't remember the others that you're thinking of.
That's all right, Steve. Look, there's a few there, but the main thing is if you've got a dream and a passion, then go for it.
Yeah.
Because
well, I had not much else to live for in my life, but kids inspire you to the point that it's worth keep going.
Yeah,
for me, that's the one for me. It gives life your purpose.
and look,
my life is certainly not easy now. As I explained at the very beginning, I'm still having some pretty big struggles. But those camps, like, they're 3 times a year. This is the beginning of my 11th year with them, and I've only missed 2 of them. And I regret making those decisions, because I go there and you come out feeling better than you did when you left.
Yeah. And I think that's something like a principle, isn't it? As we keep giving out, it automatically just comes back to us. Now, Steve, there's so much of the journey of your story that we haven't had time to go into.
That's not even the half of it.
One of the greatest things I've done is enjoying talking to you on the phone and now seeing you face to face. You told me you're a big bloke. You told me about, and I just think, looking at you now, just honouring you for honouring those kids, mate, keep doing it. Keep doing it. They need it. They really need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So is there anything that we've missed that you had, that you'd prepared, that you would love to just share with the guys?
No, I think I got to everything.
Yeah, I think you have. And I think we've done extremely well time-wise. But look, Steve, it's been a privilege, and I trust that there'll be a day come when I'll be able to give you a big bear hug and say, well done. And love the image behind you. It really fits you well. And just keep on keeping on, mate. You'll be
Actually,
good.
yeah,